If I were president of the United States, I would pursue hegemony for the United States to gain as much power as possible over the rest of the world, but I would do so through peaceful strategies, diplomacy, negotiations, peace treaties. The most aggressive I would get on a regular basis would probably be propaganda. There's very little loss of life, if any, and it works well. And cyber attacks, which I haven't really given much thought to, but I would rather us be doing that to others than them to us, which is a sad state on human nature, but that maybe is a video for another time. I just want to explore objective reality. And to help with that, you can look up hegemony online in the dictionary, whatever. Let's just do a little thought experiment. Imagine that all of reality is a 100-acre plot of land, and you are one of 100 people living on it. Everyone's going to look for shelter, water, and food, but at some point, as is evident by all of recorded human history and the current state that we're in now, many people are going to have a thought that goes something like this. Geez, I could have a live and let live philosophy or approach to life, but it's risky because every single person, all 99 other people on the 100-acre plot of land would have to think the same thing, and they'd have to stick to thinking the same thing all the time. And I can't take that risk because if any one of them or a group of them becomes more powerful than my group or myself, they might try to impose their way of life on me, and I don't want that. So I have to go out and constantly gain power. I have to get at least enough power so that I can resist them enforcing their way of life on me. Ideally, I would gain even more power so that if I wanted to, I can enforce my way of life on them. And so I'm going to take a proactive rather than reactive approach towards gaining power. And I might do it in a number of ways. Maybe I can go to war. We've got 8 people, they've got 10. Maybe we're better fighters. Maybe if I spread some lies through propaganda, I can split them into factions of 5 and 5, divide and conquer. Maybe I can promote peace and gain more allies, various strategies that you can take to gain power. But the world's a lot bigger than 100 acres, and it's got more than 100 people. It's got about 200 countries. And it's sort of similar to like the board game Risk. And there are hegemonic meetings that take place. It's the equivalent of when it's your turn to play Risk. The thoughts that go through your head as to what to do, how to gain more power, that's what these hegemonic meetings are like. They take place all around the world. A lot of them, we're involved in 15 proxy wars right now, are taking place in the United States, obviously. And there are 2 parties in these hegemonic meetings. There's the deep state, there's the executive branch. How do I know some of this stuff? I've read tons of declassified documents. So can you. You can get them in books that authors package and they kind of give a spin on it, or you can go to the Library of Congress and read them. And these hegemonic meetings, they're not all the information. These declassified documents act as the minutes to hegemonic meetings. And if you read them, you'll get a good beat on the country, and you'll see from administration to administration a lot of patterns unfolding over time. So you got the deep state and the executive branch deciding what to do in order to gain more power around the world. Here's the deep state. They 100% default to violent hegemonic strategies. Direct wars, proxy wars. First, they'll start with a covert operation. Not a lot of loss of life. They don't really actually care about that. Doesn't cost a lot of money, which they also don't care about. It's just another property of a covert operation. And it doesn't need mass public opinion, which is probably why they do it. Sort of testing things out as much as possible before the public gets involved. And in this grim video, that should give you some reassurance that, in a way, the public is sort of sitting at the table with the deep state and the executive branch. 80%, in terms of my reading, of covert operations fail. Even the ones that succeed, you assassinate somebody in another country, or you put in a covert regime change and it's successful. Some power vacuum takes place, or the new leadership you installed is now torn between the United States and the country that we're trying to gain more power over. So even the successful ones end up more disastrous than if we never did anything at all. At which point, the deep state will then default again to violence, but an overt operation. Those are proxy wars and direct wars, or overt operations. Cost more money, which they don't care about. Cost a lot more lives on either side, which they don't care about, but requires mass public opinion. I won't get too far into it, but mass public opinion still plays a role. It sort of has a drag-along, tag-along, lagging effect. Which is why propaganda is so crucial. We'll get into that in a little bit. Now it's an overt operation. There are 2 reasons why they do it. Money, and they get a dopamine rush. They're addicted to it. Really, most of the world is in the condition that it's in because a select few group of people are wired to receive a dopamine rush through various actions, and they need to take more and more violent actions to get that. Let me try to substantiate it. The Ukraine war we'll pick on. Putin and Zelensky had 2 peace treaties that they were ready to sign. The United States sent Britain in as a proxy to rip those peace treaties up. The deep state understands that you can make more money, which is the first reason, by destroying a place and then building it back up than you can signing off a peace treaty, right? Which would have given away a small plot of land in the Ukraine that nobody would have cared about. and we would have saved a lot of lives. When you go to war, you make a lot of money for a few people in a really short period of time. And that's a rush, and that's a lot of money. On the other side, if you sign a peace treaty, you'll make money for even more people, right? It's diluted over a much longer period of time. Not as much of a rush there, not as much money. The problem with this is the deep state is so out of control. This ties into that dopamine rush. They're sort of addicted to doing crazier and crazier things. It's so out of control that it doesn't realize it might destroy the very country it's trying to seek power for. So it makes it worthless to seek power in this way. Go back to the 100-acre plot of land. If we're hitting each other over the head with sticks and stones, maybe we advance to conventional warfare. There's violence, it's horrible, but it doesn't destroy the world. The technology today has reached a point where it is so high that the weakest player in this hegemonic game, the weakest country on the map, now has access to technology that can stop the economy of any of the stronger players. Russia and China don't want to fight each other. China and the US don't want to fight each other. If I were president of the United States, I would not turn a blind eye to the possibility. I'm just saying they implement covert operations against each other all the time. They don't care because they don't want to fight. It's the smaller countries, because at some point there will be blowback here. All these violent wars that we've involved in. Almost every war after World War II, the innocent people that we've killed in other places, the United States, is fighting to get power in such a way that it might undo the United States. At some point, we will have a problem. On the other side of the table is the executive branch. And this is why the executive branch is so important. Don't let anybody fool you saying that the vice president, the president, the staff have no real say in what goes on. This is not at all how it works. They have a voice, they could speak up. There are really three kinds of executive branches that sit at the table during these hegemonic meetings with the deep state. The first one, you have a war hawk executive branch. If you have a war-hungry executive branch, then obviously they're going to mesh perfectly with the deep state. We're going to be in a lot of wars. Second executive branch type is the inept or the puppet or the ones that are easy to roll over. If they meet the deep state, then the default is going to go to the deep state's default, which is lots of wars and proxy wars. And then there's the dominant executive branch, the third type, has basically a motto that could best be summed up as walk softly and carry a big stick, which I agree with. And it is our primary, or one of our primary directives, is to keep the country out of war. They still want to pursue power for the United States. They can sort of beat the deep state down into submission. So if I were president of the United States, obviously I would have had to run for office. I would have had a campaign. So this video not only serves as my stance on hegemonic strategies, but this video would have served as a way to campaign. I would have had my staff with me. I would have appointed them as early as possible in my campaigning process. And I would have live streamed a lot of roundtable discussions with my staff to cover other topics, but specifically to look at past hegemonic meetings and how we would have handled them. And so the United States, the public, could sort of try before they buy. You can see who you were electing to go beat down that traditionally violent deep state. I could take a video or the videos that I mentioned with my supposed staff. I would make sure to push those through propaganda, like a type of propaganda to gain power. We'd blast it out to as many satellites as possible so all of the people of different nations would see that we're all about negotiations, peace treaties. They would become more allies. We could push down on that blowback. If you like this kind of solutionism, if you like this approach to politics, let me know in the comment section. If you don't like it, make fun of me in the comment section. Or better yet, you can let me know topic that you want me to discuss under the motif if I were president of the United States. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.